I've been treated very, very, very differently to everybody else that exists, all examples that exist, past, present.
What happens when the most powerful man in your life, the one who gave you your name, your title, and your place in the world, goes silent? Not in anger, not in chaos, but in complete, calculated stillness. That's exactly what Prince Harry faced when he sent a personal letter to King Charles III. No cameras, no social media, no legal teams or PR handlers, just a father and son, one reaching out, the other not reaching back. The letter wasn't some dramatic plea. It was formal, respectful, quietly written. A request to attend the King's Foundation Summit, to show face, to stand in support. No fanfare, no speeches, just presence. For Harry, it was more than just an RSVP. It was a test, a gesture, maybe even a soft re-entry into royal life after years of friction, press battles, and fractured trust. But what he got in return? Nothing. No call, no response, no whisper of acknowledgement. And then came the confirmation. He wouldn't be invited, not in person, not via Zoom, not even for a seat in the back row. The message was simple, brutal, and unmistakable. You're not welcome. This wasn't about schedules or protocol. This was the monarchy's cleanest cut yet, a door quietly shut without ceremony, but with surgical precision. Because when the crown wants you out, it doesn't shout. It erases. When Prince Harry sat down to write that letter, it wasn't an act of rebellion. It was quiet, intentional, maybe even hopeful. After all the headlines, after all the wounds aired and alliances broken, this was something different, something personal. Sources close to the royal family say the letter wasn't angry or demanding. It was respectful, thoughtful. A private request from a son to his father, asking not for forgiveness, but simply for a seat, a place in the room, a chance to be seen. The event in question wasn't some minor appearance or ceremonial obligation. It was the King's Foundation Summit, one of the Crown's most significant annual showcases. A gathering of world leaders, innovators, and cultural icons designed to reflect the monarchy's purpose, relevance, and values in the modern era. And Harry understood that. He knew what it represented, which is exactly why he wanted to be there. His request wasn't about protocol or prestige. It wasn't about proving loyalty to the public. It was about showing his father, quietly, that he was still willing to be involved, still invested in the family legacy, even if he was no longer part of the firm. But what he received in return wasn't just silence, it was strategy. At first, there was no reply, no phone call, no word from any palace aide, just a void. Then came the confirmation. No invitation would be extended. Not in person, not virtually, not even as a symbolic gesture. According to palace insiders, the decision was made almost immediately after the letter arrived. There was no debate, no back and forth, no weighing the optics. It was simply no. And in that single, sharp decision, the king delivered one of the most defining messages of his reign so far, not through words, but through omission. One former royal staffer put it bluntly. The letter went in. The door stayed shut. Harry wasn't just denied entry. He was erased from the moment entirely. And in the monarchy, being left off the calendar speaks louder than being called out. The moment the official guest list was published, the silence became a statement. The King's Foundation Summit wasn't a minor engagement. It was the signature event of the royal calendar, a curated blend of power, philanthropy, and prestige. The kind of gathering where global influence is quietly displayed through photo ops, seating charts, and symbolism. Everyone who mattered was there. Prince William, naturally, Queen Camilla, Princess Anne, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. Even non-working royals like Zara and Mike Tyndall were invited. Their presence made it clear that this wasn't a matter of senior royals only. It was about who the crown wanted in the room and who it didn't. Outside the royal bloodline, cultural figures like David Beckham, Kate Winslet, and Sir David Attenborough were front and center, influential, reputable, loyal. And then there was Harry. Or rather, there wasn't. Not a single line in the schedule, not a nod in the program, not even a polite mention by staff or press. The king's own son, the one who had walked behind Diana's coffin, the one who once stood for service and sacrifice, had been completely excluded. Deliberately. One insider didn't mince words. There was never any intention to include him. And that made all the difference, because this wasn't about forgetting. It wasn't about timing. It wasn't about avoiding drama. It was about clarity. The monarchy was no longer playing coy. There was no seat saved, no fallback invitation, no half-hearted reconciliation effort. Harry was off the list, because that was the point. Every inclusion said, "These are the faces of our future," and Harry's absence said everything else. As news of Harry's quiet rejection spread, one thing became immediately noticeable. Not what was said, but what wasn't. From Meghan, there was nothing. No comment, no clarification, no PR spin from unnamed sources close to the Duchess. Total silence. And in the world of global celebrity and royal intrigue, silence is rarely ever accidental. Sources close to the couple revealed Meghan had no part in Harry's request. Some say she discouraged it altogether. She reportedly didn't want to attend the summit, didn't want her name attached, and didn't want to reopen doors she believed were better left shut. While Harry looked back toward the palace with hope, Meghan was already looking ahead to Los Angeles meetings, lifestyle brand opportunities, and private equity ventures in California. Her energy was focused on shaping a future free of titles, obligations, and family PR cleanups. And to many observers, that wasn't just a professional decision, it was personal. This wasn't the united front the world had seen during their exit in 2020. This wasn't Harry and Meghan against the institution. This was Harry on his own, writing letters, making quiet asks, and hoping for a seat. Meghan didn't join him. She didn't even flinch. And that disconnect became a story of its own. Royal insiders reportedly took Meghan's silence as a sign, not of neutrality, but of resignation. That she had accepted what Harry hadn't. The chapter was closed. The door wasn't just shut, it was bricked over. And trying to return, in her eyes, only made things worse. Whether you see it as self-preservation or strategic branding, one thing became undeniable. Harry's isolation was no longer just about the crown. It was creeping into his marriage, and the palace wasn't the only one pulling away. While Harry's letter was ignored and the world debated what it meant, the mood inside Buckingham Palace told a completely different story, one the public didn't see. There was no internal crisis. No scrambling from senior advisors, no contingency plans or crisis communications. What there was instead was a long-awaited sense of relief. According to multiple palace insiders, the decision to exclude Harry from the King's Foundation summit was not met with tension. It was met with quiet approval. Behind those palace walls, aides and officials weren't wringing their hands. They were, for the first time in years, exhaling. For far too long, the situation with Harry had been a cloud over day-to-day royal operations. Staffers didn't know whether to defend or distance. Public statements had to be endlessly reviewed and watered down. Every media appearance, every leaked clip, every book excerpt brought new confusion, new offense, and new divides. And yet the monarchy had held back. Until now. Sources say the king's decision wasn't just firm, it was freeing. It gave the royal institution what it had lacked since the Sussex exit: finality. There would be no more polite accommodations, no soft nods, no vague olive branches behind closed doors. The letter came in. It was read. And then it was dismissed. And with that came a rare moment of unity inside the palace. No objections from senior royals, no pushback from advisors. Even those who had previously advocated for reconciliation quietly stepped aside. One longtime courtier put it plainly. It was the first time in a long time we weren't waiting for a royal decision to be walked back or softened. Even among those who once sympathized with Harry, the mood had changed. Many felt they had bent over backwards, privately and publicly, for years. But every gesture of goodwill had been met with another wave of criticism from across the Atlantic. Eventually, even the most patient began to lose patience. By drawing a clear line, King Charles gave the crown something it desperately needed: consistency. And within royal circles, that consistency isn't just appreciated, it's sacred. There were no whispered regrets in the palace halls after the exclusion, no last-minute scrambling to include Harry in some symbolic way. Because in the monarchy, when clarity arrives, it becomes doctrine. And this time, the doctrine was simple. There is no place in the future for someone still trying to rewrite the past. While Harry was scrambling to re-establish his footing in the royal world, Meghan Markle had taken a very different route, one defined not by action, but by silence. Not a statement, not a post, not even a cryptic quote tucked into a lifestyle interview. Nothing. And in the world of royal optics, silence isn't absence, it's intent. According to sources close to the couple, Meghan didn't co-sign Harry's request to attend the King's Foundation summit. She didn't push back, but she also didn't support it. Those same sources say she wasn't interested in the royal return, and some claim she even warned Harry the outcome was inevitable. This wasn't a case of emotional detachment or being too busy. This was strategic distancing. Her focus, insiders say, is now firmly planted in California, on new ventures, rebranding efforts, and private deals that don't involve tiaras or tea with Camilla. She's working with advisors, aligning with new PR teams, and developing projects under her own name, not the Sussex brand. And that's what makes the silence so loud. People noticed. Media outlets started running side-by-side headlines. Harry seeks royal reintegration versus Meghan pushes forward solo brand. One insider from a Beverly Hills agency claimed Meghan had recently instructed her team to focus solely on the Markle identity, not the Duchess one. And back in the UK, this silence was being interpreted as something far more damning than indifference. Within palace circles, Meghan's disengagement was viewed as a quiet confirmation that even she knew the door was shut. Some believe she's already pivoted, completely, toward a world where the British monarchy is a relic of her past, not a chapter she intends to reopen. One royal watcher described her silence as the cleanest break she's ever made. No emotional statements, no subtle digs, just a complete and total shift. And that, ironically, has created even more speculation. Is Meghan protecting herself from more public fallout? Is she planning a reinvention that doesn't include Harry's baggage? Or is this simply the natural result of two people who were always walking in slightly different directions, finally reaching the split in the road? Her silence is being seen as both abandonment and foresight, depending on who you ask. But here's what's clear. When Harry faced rejection, he faced it alone. And Meghan's quiet refusal to engage has now become its own headline. In this saga where every gesture is scrutinized, her stillness felt deafening. It wasn't just a refusal to attend an event, it was a refusal to acknowledge the war Harry is still trying to fight. Some palace sources even claim this internal split within the Sussex camp has reached a boiling point. One alleged conversation between a royal aide and a family insider included the phrase, "She's already moved on from a battle he doesn't realize is over." It's a chilling notion, not because of what it says about their relationship, but because of what it means for Harry's future. If Meghan, the woman who stood beside him through the storm, is stepping back, who's left in his corner? When Harry and Meghan first stepped away from royal duties, Hollywood opened its arms. They weren't just royals anymore, they were global brands, unfiltered, marketable, controversial enough to get clicks, polished enough to secure million-dollar deals. In the early days, it worked. There were podcasts, documentaries, headlines, talk shows. Their names filled the content calendars of every media outlet that mattered. For a while, they were everywhere. But now, that shine is wearing off. Spotify pulled their deal. Netflix, once eager to bank on the Sussex story, has reportedly cooled. New projects aren't being fast-tracked. Executives are growing cautious. Behind the scenes, Harry's name doesn't command the same weight it once did, not because people dislike him, but because they're no longer sure he delivers results. The numbers are plateauing. The buzz is fading. The narrative feels stale. And in Hollywood, that's deadly. One PR strategist, speaking off the record, said it bluntly, "He came in as royalty, but he's turning into a tabloid character, and that's a liability." The shift is subtle but serious. Brand partners are hesitating. Producers are second-guessing. Audiences are harder to win over, because without a royal title, without access to the palace, without the mystique of monarchy, what exactly does Harry offer? His stories have been told. The bombshells have dropped, and now content creators are wondering if there's anything left to reveal. Hollywood loves a comeback, but it's also quick to turn cold, and right now, Harry is standing at the edge of that chill. The palace isn't just thinking about today. It never has. Its power comes from legacy, carefully shaped over decades, even centuries. Every event, every photo, every guest list is designed to echo years from now. And that's why Harry's exclusion wasn't a one-time decision. It was a precedent. Royal commentators are already comparing Harry to past figures who stepped too far outside tradition. Wallis Simpson, Prince Andrew, even distant royals whose names faded from history altogether. The pattern is familiar: step too far, and the institution erases you not with anger, but with time. The King's Foundation Summit was about more than prestige. It was about values, stability, unity, the future of the crown. And by excluding Harry, the message was deliberate. This is who we are now. Every inclusion on that list, from Prince William to cultural ambassadors like David Beckham, was curated to reflect the monarchy's evolving identity. Polished, loyal, consistent, Harry no longer fits that mold. And so quietly, he's being removed from the narrative. Not by scandal, not by force, but by omission. The kind of erasure that doesn't happen overnight, but becomes impossible to reverse once it begins. Because history doesn't remember noise. It remembers names. And right now, the palace is making sure Harry's is mentioned less and less. Harry's story was never supposed to end this way. He was the prince who broke the mold, the soldier who walked behind his mother's casket and grew up under the world's gaze, the royal who chose love and freedom over tradition and title. But somewhere between the interviews and the headlines, the story shifted. And now, he's no longer the rebel prince. He's the man left off the list. The monarchy didn't exile him with rage. It didn't revoke titles in a dramatic announcement. It didn't even send a reply. It simply moved forward and left him behind. That's how the royal machine works. It doesn't shout. It edits. Now, Harry faces a future without the platform that once made his voice matter. Without the weight of the crown behind his name, every step forward is his alone. He asked for space. Now, he has it. But the question is, what will he do with it? Because in the end, it wasn't a door slamming shut. It was a slow, quiet disappearance. And when royalty goes quiet, that silence lasts forever.